Welcome, everybody, to our session on institutional assessment. We are glad that you are joining us today during, we were just talking, week of accountability, probably how we all feel, especially Friday in the afternoon, getting ready for classes. So the very first thing we're going to ask you to do is to do a pre-post assessment. If you go to this slide, everybody should have, oh, let me just double check. Oh, darn, hold on. I just updated it. Everybody now has edit access to the slide deck. At this point, you're going to grab any of the orange little shapes, the light orange ones, the ones on the left, and you're going to drag it into one of the boxes under start. You'll see that I just did that right there. And that way we'll do this at the end. So we'll see if we get to move you a little bit from being less confident to being more confident. And I'm going to go ahead and move that back. So take just a moment and let us know where you are at with this. You can pick any box you want, just, or shape, just don't pick the same shape somebody else does. There's lots of different options. The whole slide deck will be available at the end of the session as well. So you will have it as a resource, and we are recording this, and this will be available for others to watch later or for you to share with any friends or colleagues you would like to share it with. All right. Oh, there we go. All right. Oh, I am going to do something quick. Let me find this. Great. All right. So if you were just joining us, what we are doing is on this slide right here, you are picking a light colored orange square or orange shape. It was the closest I could get to a gear of the shapes available. And you're going to move it somewhere into the start area based on where you feel like you fall. Whoever moved the dark orange one, I'll swap that one out later for you because we're going to use dark orange at the end to see where we are. All right, so take a moment if you haven't had a chance to do that yet, go back and fill that out, but we are going to go ahead and get started because we have a short period of time and I want to cover a lot of things. So where I'm going to start is with what I shared at the all faculty meeting, and I'm going to do this in like the 30-second version of it, but it just provides some of the context for what we're talking about here. So this is sort of the evolution of our hashtag strategic assessment here. And what we really think about is when we think about our students, the foundation they're on is made up of all of our classes, all of the co-curricular, all of the things that they do. We typically think about them in the space of our individual classes, and that's where our focus is. And that's great. We should be doing that. In the past, we really did a lot of class assessment where we were doing sort of isolated work. And we, of course, continue class assessment all the time because that's how we do, 90% of our assessment that we do. But in recent years, we've moved more towards course assessment where groups of faculty have started thinking a little bit more around the goals of a course and what they want students to be getting out of it. This year, we're going to be moving to program where faculty within disciplinaries are going to be working on it. But what we're focused here on today is institutional assessment. So our ILOs that we'll talk about, things like critical thinking and quantitative reasoning, they bridge lots and lots of our programs and our co-curriculars. And what's really important here is to think through how all of us collectively across different disciplinary areas are able to actually support students in this. So this is what we want to do today. And this is where we're going to be asking you to be part of institutional learning outcome assessment if you haven't already been. All right. So here's where we're officially going to be starting. And like I said, the slide deck will be available. I'm not necessarily going to cover in super detail everything on here, but you'll get a sense and it will be available afterwards. So we really want to strengthen student learning across our entire institution in these high level learning skills that we need students to know. And these are institutional learning outcomes. We also can think about this as our general education assessment. So we already did our pre-post presentation poll. If you are just joining us and haven't had a chance, I'm going to pop this one more time into the chat. Just go to this Google slide and move one of your little light colored orange shapes into the spot where you see, because we want to see by the end where you are at. All right. So what are institutional learning outcomes? Well, they are the marketable and life skills that we have decided as an institution that our students must need to know. They, of course, overlap if you look on what it is that employers, what it is that universities want of students. These are the things: critical thinking, diversity awareness, career readiness, all of that. And so by involving ourselves in gathering data for institutional learning outcomes, we can look at a lot of things. We can identify where gaps are. We can see how gaps might be related to not just student learning, but also retention efforts. We can help try to correct those. And in the ILO database, there are tons and tons of filters by different ways of disaggregating the data, so we can really do a deeper dive into it. So there's a lot of value here. We have 7 ILOs: critical and creative thinking, oral, written, and visual communication, quantitative reasoning and analysis, information literacy, diversity awareness and appreciation, personal and community well-being, and career goals and knowledge. And so what we're asking is that you tap into some aspect of at least one of these in the upcoming semester, or you're welcome to add more in as you go. So who should be assessing ILOs? We're going to focus on number 1 here, our faculty, because it's our faculty who, within the context of their course, are really best suited in this particular case to give us information around what it is that students are doing and how we can ultimately help them. So if you need to know anything about ILO reporting, what you're going to do here, I'm going to be switching back and forth in a couple of different places. We're going to come to Canvas in a minute, but you can get to our Gaucho assessment site by navigating to our intranet and finding Gaucho. I need to move this a little bit more over here. It's sized right for the Canvas demonstrations I'll do in a moment. If you come down to, oops, it's a little hidden here. Let me come down a little bit more. The Employee Resources tab, and that's what the link on the slide deck will take you directly to. You can then come into ILO reporting. Everything we're going to talk about today is available here and more. So you can find out what an ILO is. You can access all of our ILO rubrics in different versions. You can actually play around with the ILO dashboard. And then there are lots of instructions about how to assess ILOs in Canvas. We're going to do a quick run through of them today, but there are not only written instructions, but short little videos that walk you visually through how to do all of these things. So this is sort of your home for ILO help, but we will have additional help sessions. We will be always willing to work one-on-one. Just reach out to us. All right. And I should mention Roxanne is monitoring the chat. So if you have questions or anything else, feel free to drop them into the chat. So let's talk a little bit about how the first step, which is you have to find an ILO that you think that you might want to take a look at. So the important thing is, in this case, let's come back here, is to review all of our ILOs and think about what you are already doing in your course that is helping students gain some of these skills. So are you working on communication? Are you working on information literacy? So what assignments might tap into this that you are already doing? This is really not meant to be extra work. It's meant to be just a little extra, couple minute thing you do over the course of the semester. And the biggest part of it, the hardest part of it, honestly, would be figuring out what ILO item is the right one for an assignment. We do want these assignments that you are picking to be something more summative. If it's a really formative assignment, very kind of early on, very basic, that's really not right for an ILO because we're looking at our students ready to leave the institution with this skill. But you can come in here, look at all of these items, decide, hey, I want to do information literacy, and say, I really think that this item identifies search results is most important, and that's the one that's associated with my assignment, and that's what I want to use. So your mental work will mostly be around identifying which thing speaks to you and your class. All right, from there, there are examples I should have shown that over here. There's some examples that might give you a sense of the types of things that people may do, but that's not limiting. You can identify, like, we are trusting faculty to have the expertise to know what works for them in their class and what would be appropriate to submit. We ask that you kind of think about it over time. Maybe you change these over time. Maybe you try a few and so on. So it can be an iterative process. And if you have actually great examples of how you've used them, feel free to let us know. But really, the main point from this slide is you've got to think about what matters to you and your students in your class. What are you actively teaching? And how can you do that assessment with an existing assignment that you have? So that's step number one. From there, we have to actually get this into Canvas. So once you've decided what item you want, you're going to add it into your Canvas course. And once you add it in once, it'll always roll over, so it will always be there. So I'm going to show kind of how to do this. If you are in Canvas, and I know this is fast, we don't have a lot of time. So if you want to follow along, you can try. But this is hopefully, we will send out the recording. And again, all of this is described on the Gaucho site. But if you come into your Canvas course and you come to outcomes, let me move this a little bit. We don't need that bar over there. I'm going to come to outcomes. I am going to click find. And oops, I didn't want to make it too small, so I'm moving back for a little bit. You're going to see account standards. I'm going to click on that. You're going to see Glendale Community College. I'm going to click on that. You're going to see GCC ILOs. I'm going to click on that. You're going to see the folders for all of the ILOs. The ones that have, multiple rubrics like communication are going to have multiple folders. I'm going to say I was interested in information literacy. It's going to import all of the different items there. I'm going to say I was really interested in this one right here. So now I can see that. And I'm going to come down here and I'm simply going to import it into my class. I'm going to say, okay, yes, I want to import it. So now you'll see it's been added into my class and I'm ready to go. I'm now ready to deploy it somewhere within my class. And that's all you have to do. And again, if I were to take this Canvas course, copy it for another semester, it's still going to be there. That's why you sort of see all these other ones in here. So once it's there, and you can use it however you want. All right. From there, let's pop back here for a moment. I'm going to need to move this so I can come back here. So you're going to bring it in, you're going to import it, you're going to make sure it's there, you're all good. The next step is, well, you can do a couple different things. There's a few different slides in here where I'm going to show you one particular way. You can either create, so you have to have a rubric. You can either create a rubric that only has the ILO item in it. You can also create a rubric that you're using for grading that you add the item to. You can do this in discussions. You can do this in quizzes. You can do it in regular assignments. So there's lots of different opportunities. I'm going to show, and again, there's videos on all of these on the Gaucho site, but I'm going to show you the basic way to do this. So I have right here an assignment in Canvas, and this assignment has a rubric associated with it. Here's my rubric down here. And this is the rubric I'm going to use to grade students. And what I want to do is I think this ILO would be a great addition to this assignment. I think I can assess students not just on my assignment, but also on that particular item. So I just need to edit my rubric. Down here, you're going to see find outcome. And this only works, again, if you've imported the outcome. So I'm finding my outcome. So here's all of my outcomes. Oh, whoops. Hold on for a second. I didn't refresh this page after I added it, which is why we didn't see the one we put in. So let me do that again. Okay. So we're coming in. Now that ILO item is in here. I don't know where it went. That's okay. Oh, here we go. Evaluating. I'm going to click it. And here's the most important thing to know. The default here is going to be to score students on this so that if I give them points, they get those points. And if I don't, they don't. You absolutely want to uncheck that box because my Psych 101 students or my Psych 290 students, this is for our institutional purposes. It is not the case that they need to be, almost no student should even be at a 4 for us. Most of our students are going to be at a 1, 2, or a 3. And a 1 might be fine based on your class. Intro psych, they might only be at the level of a 1, and they shouldn't be docked anything for not having the experience to do better. So the most important thing is you do not want to grade them based on this. You want to grade whatever your grading structure is and just use this to send data up to us. So after I click that, I will have the opportunity to import. And you will see that item now becomes a part of my rubric. And it's right in there. And you'll notice it says 4 points, but it doesn't show that it is like editable like that. So it's worth points, but it's not going to go into their grade. And if you notice, like your points on your rubric are not going to change. If by accident you import it and it actually imports the points, just delete it and find it again. Then all I need to do is update my rubric. Now, if you don't want to use the ILO rubric for actual grading, you would uncheck that box. And so on. But there we go. We also ask that you don't click remove points, just because the data is a little cleaner when it comes into our system if the points are there. But if you really feel strongly about that, you can. So then I'll update my rubric and it'll be available. All right, so now I've added, and again, like I said, you can add it to a rubric anywhere. It can be your graded rubric. It can be an ungraded rubric. You can add a rubric item to a quiz even, that the quiz is automatically scored, but I'm just going in and having my separate rubric item. Oh, there's a page in here about how to do it with discussions as well. Again, this is more, some of the items in the slide deck are more for reference later than necessarily things we're going to go all the way through. And like I said, every slide here has an accompanying video on our Gaucho site. So let's talk about scoring. Once you're ready to score, you are going to go into your speed grader and you're going to, open it up if you need help. CTLE is a great resource, but you're going to open up your speed grader, you're going to get your rubric, and you are just going to click the appropriate button. A few things that are important to know here. It is important data for us that students didn't turn the assignment in, because that can be meaningful. If 50% of your students didn't do the assignment, that means that maybe when we're interpreting the data, we need to reconsider that data. So make sure that, 0 points is no submission. So make sure if a student didn't turn it in, just mark them a 0. Some faculty sometimes skip that, and we don't want you to skip it. The other thing is you need kind of a special context for thinking about how you're scoring on the 1, 2, 3, or 4. So this is not how well they're doing in your class. They might be doing great in your class. This is, are they doing well in the context of being ready to leave GCC with these skills? So like in the psych department, we actually score like our ILOs, but then we have a version of them that are our CLOs. So we say we might score basically the same content twice, but we're saying from the perspective of me and my class, they might be a 3, but in the perspective of, do I think they should be going out and representing a GCC student out in the workforce or at university? Maybe they're a 2. So you kind of want that larger context. So let's talk a little bit about how you're scoring. First one is attempted. They turned something in. It's probably not, may not be very good, but they tried. So that's like, okay, points for trying. And that's important for us. Again, this is why we maybe aren't necessarily using this grading wise, but assessment wise. Emerging is they're starting to get the skill in the context of your class, but they maybe need exposure to it across more classes before they're going to be proficient in terms of really leaving the institution. A 3 should be given if you're like, yes, they have this. They can apply the skill. I'm happy sending them off to ASU or another university. I'm happy for them to be starting their professional career. They will represent us and their knowledge well, and we have done our job. That's a 3. A 4 should be used very sparingly. A 4 is, we have bachelor's programs, like they're done with their bachelor's. They're like going to grad school. They're, going into mid-level professional position. So a 4 is like they are exceptional. And sometimes we have these students, but I should say your scores that you're giving students, these are not a reflection of you or your abilities. Because again, this is a cumulative thing that students need to do over their time with us. So you should never feel bad giving somebody a 2 or even a 1. I tell my students flat out in Psych 101, I expect most of them to get a 1 or a 2. The rare student might get a 3. I almost never give a 4. And I will share later language I actually give students that explains it. I have language in my assignment about what this is, and I have language that I send to them when I grade about what this is, because I think it's important for them to know that they're developing these skills across all of these classes. All right, so in kind of conclusion here, we really want you to be thinking about how you're going to integrate at least one item somewhere in your course. So there's, again, a little bit of setup, but after that, you're just going to go in and do your grading. We do need you to make sure that you've published the assignment. If the assignment's not published, then we don't get the data. We would love for you to engage your students in some limited, at least, discussion of what ILOs are. So again, one thing that's not in Gaucho yet is that language you might want to share with students about what they are and why you're making them do them and why they're important. And then, of course, reach out to your department assessment coordinator or any of our assessment developers or Roxanne and myself if you need help. We are always happy to help you. And I know this was a super whirlwind and your brains may be a little bit fried. And we did not add in like a 30-minute sort of Q&A to this session, although that's coming in our next 2 sessions. But on that note, what I want you to do is I want you to come back to our pre-post assessment. Now grab a dark orange shape and move it to maybe where you feel like you are now. And if it doesn't move, that's okay. This is important for us to know because then it allows us to change how we are interacting with you, which is, of course, the point of assessment. If you don't have access to this slide, I will drop it in. We do have 5 minutes. If you have questions, you can also drop into chat, hey, I want a one-on-one, so you can sit down and work with me on this. So feel free to drop that information in and we will follow up. All right. Oh, no, great question, Kim. Nothing has changed. It's the exact same thing. So if you've done it before, keep doing it. And if you've done it before for one thing, maybe you want to level up and add, 1 or 2 more somewhere in your class. So yeah, like I have multiple of these in my classes because the biggest thing that we want is in order to start thinking about how we're going to use the data, we need to know where faculty are and we need to know where students are. We're going to be looking at things like which disciplines are assessing which ILOs, how, what are our most prominent ILOs? Where are we going to start with thinking through looking at data collectively? Where are we going to start with thinking about how we might do a college-wide intervention? So maybe all of the critical thinking people want to say, look, we could drop this one extra thing into our course, and that might help them with critical thinking. So we want to be thinking about these things big, We're not doing that this year, because this year we're going to be doing program assessment, which we're starting about that in about 5 minutes. But that's going to be some of the things happening next year. But what will be really helpful for us this year is to have a more robust data set. And the ILO dashboard is so cool. Updates weekly, has lots of filters. We are going to do sessions later on how to really use it. You can drill down, not to your section, but to the course you teach and look comprehensively at data by all sorts of filters. So this will be really, really helpful, but of course it only works if you have data in the system. So that is my big plug. Of course, Roxanne and I are excited. We're not going to make you cheer like we did during convocation. Other questions that you have yet? Our whirlwind tour. I'm looking at Michelle on the screen. Michelle helped, with back in the days of yore when she was supporting Canvas. I'm like, she's got you've got Canvas questions. I mean, I know you can go CTLE, but anyway, I'm just remembering past interactions with Michelle on all of our fabulous Canvas stuff. And I do appreciate everybody coming. And some of you maybe have, kind of popped in here at the end, but I do appreciate you coming, especially on this last day where you probably have 1,000 things on your to-do list. All right, did everybody have a chance to, I'm not seeing too many little dark orange spots showing up. It's not telling me I need to update to move things. If you haven't had a chance to move your dark orange spot, please do so. This is great data. Oh, there have been, oh, interesting. It's not, huh. All right, let me do that again. Oh, now we get an update. There, oh, look at that. That makes me so happy. All right. The magic of, so if you don't know about this little link slide, all I did is obviously the slides in a different deck. And I just copied it in here and I said, keep it connected. And anytime it changes in the other deck, it'll tell me, or it should be telling me to update. All right. Yes, Debbie, we are absolutely going to be doing some dashboard. So it just came out. We do need to build, Jackie Gonzalez needs to build sort of a cover summary page. And we're going to change some of the labels in there. And then we are going to also create like a QRG. So we'll probably do some, so we're going to work with CART and DAX to make a few updates to that before we push a lot of it out. But you're welcome to go. I mean, you can go and play around in it. It's linked on Gaucho. But yes, there will be more training coming. All right. Okay, it's 12:59. I am stopping the recording of this session. Hold on, I gotta find that. Where did it go? And oh, there we go. And we're going to get ready in a minute if you want to stay for program assessment.